Hi and welcome back to Maydays. This will be a two-part video. It's going to be done over a couple days and that kind of thing as well. This is actually the second day I've done it. I've done this quite a few times. This one's a rough one for me in a lot of ways because I have wanted to share this story publicly for 16 years. It's something that is incredibly near and dear to my heart. Yesterday, actually, not today, yesterday was our daughter's coming home day. The reason she had a coming home day was because she was a micropreemie. In order to be considered a micropreemie, not just a preemie, you have to be under 26 weeks gestation and or 28 ounces, which comes out to 1.75 pounds. And I do have it written down, so I'm going to look down for just a minute. She was 23 weeks and 6 days. That's what we thought when she was born. We did find out that she was actually younger than that, they believe, after we had her. They thought that she was probably around 21 weeks. She was 1 pound, 8.2 ounces, and she was 12 inches long. Her lowest recorded weight was like 1 pound, 3.4 ounces. She started out at 24.2 ounces. Her lowest reported weight was about 1 pound, I think 3.4 ounces. So she was incredibly small. I mean, she was only basically like halfway cooked, you know, so it was very stressful. So her story, I'm probably gonna go and have the first half through, I ended up myself with her, between her and I, we ended up in 4 different hospitals. So I'm going to start off with the first 2. You will have a little jump back into the second one in the second video, and then the second part will have the other 2 in that second video. Like I said, there'll be that little time jump of going into the other one too. But I'm going to start off that way, just to give you a heads up. So there is some sensitive wording in this. If you have had experience in the ICU or with a micropreemie or anything like that, you know, you can relate, but I know sometimes it can be really hard to listen to and that kind of thing. So I just want to let everyone know as they're listening to this story, because I have no problem in biological terms. I have no problem with talking about things that happened and what my personal experience was and opinion and all that kind of stuff, and the way I saw it and how I dealt with it personally and what she went through. Part of this you will see her talking. That was actually her and I last night. Took her out for a bit, and we, like I said, I started this. I'm having a really hard time because I've wanted to share her story from my point of view. This part really is my story. It's my husband's story. But I'm giving you from my point of view. It's like nothing you could ever describe, but I'm going to do my best to do it because I feel like there's some people out there. Thankfully, we're a really small group, us micropreemie parents, but I think there's a lot of people that could benefit from hearing this, and I never want her to forget the miracle that she really is, the gift that we know she is. So here it goes. We've been vacationing with my family, with my husband and I, with my parents and my brothers. We went to Cherokee, North Carolina, which is one of our favorite places to go. If you haven't been, go to Cherokee, North Carolina. They are fantastic people. Love being there. Like, They've been such a special part of my family ever since I was a baby. Like I said, I was adopted, and sometimes the look of our family wasn't exactly the typical look that you would be used to, especially in the 80s. And sometimes people said some really insensitive things. And Cherokee embraced us from moment one, and they just always did. And it felt like home every time we go. So yeah, so we were in Cherokee with my parents and my brothers, and we decided to leave because my mom and I just felt really compelled to, and we decided, it didn't really feel the same since my brothers had left, so let's go ahead and just go. We'll go to Lake Georgia, maybe go to Savannah for a few days, something like that, and just see how it goes. And do something like that, and just take it easy on the way back. So that's what we did. We packed up and we left a few days early, and we drove to Georgia. And when we drove to Georgia, I had a terrible allergy attack, and I never really had allergies, so it was really surprising. But I was coughing and sneezing and coughing, and just kept doing it over and over again. So we stopped for the night because I was having some back pain as well. And when we stopped, we just relaxed at the hotel. My mom gave my midwife a call, and she spoke with her, and she agreed, like, good idea, just stay there, rest, try to get better, feel a little more comfortable, then go ahead and you should be fine, because I was only 23 weeks pregnant, or not even 23 weeks at that point. I was only like 22 weeks pregnant, and I was 22 years old. I was healthy. Excuse me. I really had no reason to have any real problems. I had round ligament pain before that, but that was really it. So we stopped and we relaxed, and we ate dinner and that kind of thing, and I felt much better after just kind of relaxing, and my husband and my mom both like rubbed my back and that kind of thing, and I felt much better. So we went to bed, got up in the morning, went to breakfast at Cracker Barrel in Tifton, Georgia. That's where we ended up stopping. And while I was there, we went ahead and went to leave, and my mom insisted that I go to the bathroom, even though I didn't feel like going to the bathroom, and she said, you're pregnant, like, I don't want to stop in an hour, just go to the bathroom now. So we stopped, and we went to the bathroom real quick before we left, and she went in the stall near me, and I remember going there, and I was, not really expecting anything different, but there was. And this is where I start talking about things that happen in birth and pregnancy and all things related to that. And we had, or I had, what I found out later was my mucus plug had come out, and I was starting to go into labor, very, very premature labor. So told my mom what was going on. She went out and told my husband and my dad. They found out where the nearest hospital was, and she called my midwife, and I, with them, went to the hospital at Tift Hospital in Georgia. That was the first hospital. And we got there, had a really sweet nurse, really sweet doctor. The nurse was actually just she was a few days to a week difference in our pregnancy time, like our gestational age, and so it was pretty neat. We were talking about that kind of thing. I mentioned that because I'll tell you why. But the doctor finally came in, and they had put me on a monitor, and I was having some contractions. The doctor finally came in, and when she came in, it wasn't finally, it was pretty quick actually, but she came in, and when she did her exam, her pelvic exam, and she just kind of let out a little tiny gasp, and she was just like, and I mean, she's very professional, don't get me wrong, but it was surprising to see what she found. So she looks up and she said, everything's gonna be okay, but I do definitely feel either fingers or toes, I'm not sure which. And I can't really describe what I felt when she told us that, but we found that out, and I remember looking over, and the nurse just, as soon as she said it, she just grabbed her baby on her tummy, and she just had one tear go down her cheek. Knowing what all that meant, I knew what it meant too. And that was the start of our hospital journey like that. I remember the room just kind of felt like it did a 180 and felt like it went from 0 to like 120. And everybody was just coming at me, trying to get me prepared in every way to have this baby right then, because they thought she was going to come right then. And they were not prepared at that hospital for it. We had to be sent to the next hospital to hopefully go there before I had her. And I remember this, everything just like zooming past me, and it was a lot. And I remember my mom just told everyone, just please pause, just take 1 second, just take a half a step back, and everybody do everything you need to do, but just take it like one step at a time so she can handle it, because this is a lot for anyone. And I was so grateful for that statement, because it was just impossible to think that, you know, how is your baby going to make it at that time? And they're not, probably. And so everybody took a step back. They did that. I remember the EMTs got there, and they were helping get me set up to get in the ambulance to get to the next hospital. They told me that I was going to go to Macon, Georgia, and I was going to be at the medical center of Central Georgia to have her. And I would be there probably during the duration of my pregnancy, and they hoped it would be a long time. Sorry. So we went in the ambulance there, and we drove. And I remember being in the ambulance, the EMT, he was so nice. He was like, honestly, like, you've got the right man for the job. I've actually delivered a micropreemie before. I really hope I don't have to again. But that one did really well. I was able to check up on her and all. And, you know, I just want you to know that you're in the right hands. And I was like, you know, God always provides. Of course I am. Thank you so much, you know. And they let my husband sit in the ambulance as well, but they wouldn't let him sit in the back. He had to sit in the front with the other EMT driver, and I was in the back, but there was a little window, and he was able to open it and talk to me some and that kind of thing. So we did that, and we got to the hospital, and thankfully I hadn't had her. My contractions had kind of gone down some. They had already started giving me medicine to slow the labor, hopefully stop the labor. The first thing they also did, I kind of forgot to mention, was they put me in a position called Trendelenburg. So if my wrist is your head and my fingers are your toes, they go like this, and your head, you're basically kind of upside down, okay? And the idea is hopefully the baby will go back up and not be sitting right there in your cervix and causing you to have contractions and that kind of thing. Spoiler alert, it didn't work, but I was in that position to at least take pressure off my cervix as well, so that way it wasn't causing more contractions. So the other thing, when they put you in that position, the hope is that the baby is going to go back, and when you do, they can put in a cerclage, which is a stitch in your cervix. It's around it or through it, depending on what kind they do. But again, like, she never moved like that to be able to do that, so we didn't get to do that. But I did stay in that position. I stayed on magnesium. I had steroid shots. I had all sorts of different medicines to help, and try to keep her in as long as you can, because literally every minute at that point counts for your baby. I was able to keep her in for a week. I did hemorrhage several times during that time, and 2 of the times she actually, like, with her foot being where it was, it actually like stopped the bleeding somehow, or not. I don't really understand the mechanics of that part, but it did. If anybody does understand it, like, please comment. Honestly, like, I do. I'm new at this, so I respond. And with this one, I think I'll always make sure that I respond no matter how long I've had this, because it's probably the most impactful thing for me. So when I hemorrhaged, she did that and stopped bleeding, so she was gonna be able to live as long as she wasn't, there wasn't too much bleeding, which was my concern, was her life. I know that they came many times to me and said, why don't you just terminate the pregnancy and try again? And for me, that's just not an option. Her life was new, it was starting, and even though I was only 22 years old at the time, I had already had 22 years, and this was my child. This was my baby. This is the child that I had prayed for and wanted and loved. And no, never. Bleeding wouldn't stop. She kept desatting. I had bad decelerations. I was also having a lot of issues too. Obviously, I was passing out from so much blood loss and that kind of thing. I remember when I was in the hospital, the magnesium, it made me so sick. And it was, it would actually, I'd wake up and my hands would just be stuck on the bed, because I would have just been holding on to it and gripping it so tight, and my mom and my husband would both just pull my hand off and rub it, and because I didn't have muscle control to do it from how much I had to have to keep her in. But I kept her in for a week, which was at one point the doctor just came in. I'm looking at my notes, sorry, and he said, we should have this baby. If she makes it, she makes it. She doesn't. That wasn't an option, my life was in danger at that point, but hers wasn't. So I refused. And I remember him saying to me, well, it's going to take a biblical miracle for this baby to stay inside of you tonight. And I said, okay. I'm like, well, I believe that you're going to get that miracle. And at that point, that was also a time where it was early enough that they wouldn't have done anything for her. If I had had her, they would have refused, and they would have just laid her in a bed and let us say goodbye. That's it. That was the only option we'd have. So I knew I had to keep her in. And he came back in the next morning, later in the morning, because he was honestly, he was not a nice man. If I was going to complain about anyone, it would be him. And there was this one particular nurse who was absolutely horrible to myself and my family, especially my dad. She was really awful to him. I took her off my daughter's case. She was just a really mean person. And I would definitely suggest to pray for both of them, because that's how I choose to deal with people that are incredibly mean and hurtful and unkind and uncaring at all. Anyways, so he came in, and I just said, I was so excited because I kept her another night, and that meant that the next day they were going to have to do something if anything did happen and I had her, which I was really hoping it wouldn't, but I knew it was very likely. So had her, he came in the next day, and I remember saying, hey, you got your miracle. And I was so excited, and I'm this, young 22-year-old mom. This is my first baby. And he got so mad. I guess he thought I was being sarcastic or rude. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm laying upside down in a bed with tons of medicine in me and trying to keep my baby alive, trying not to die myself, honestly. And and he comes in, and he got so mad, and he picked up my chart, because he had an actual paper chart in his hand. He picked up the chart, and he just throws it on the bed, and he storms out of the room, and he's angry. And he had residents, because it was a teaching hospital, and one of them walked out to talk to him. She came right back in. She didn't even talk to him. And the other one stayed there, and she said, hey, Shauna, let's go ahead and see what's going on, how everything's going. I'm really glad that you were able to keep her in. That's really amazing. Good job. And she was really, really sweet, and they all were. And she, you know, checked me out, did the normal thing and all that. And thankfully I dealt with the residents more after that than I did him, even though the problem was, like, I couldn't take him off my case because he was the only perinatologist in, I think it's like 5 counties around there, which is insane that they only had one. I pray to God they have more at this point. It's been 16 years, so I would assume they would, but we all know what assuming does for any of us. I do have to say real quick, just thank you so much to the Medical Center of Central Georgia. I know you guys have a new name now, but I don't know what it is. I want to thank the Ronald McDonald House because you guys gave us a home when we did not have one. I mean, we were stuck out of state because we're from Florida. We were stuck out of state and we're from Southwest Florida. Like, we were far from there, pretty far from there. And we didn't know anyone. And the city of Macon, like, you guys surrounded us with love. Like, I can never, ever thank you guys enough. It was incredible. Like, we had people talking to us all the time. I remember there was a statement that a man made in that hospital parking garage to my mom once, and it has just breathed life into me for 16 years, and I will never forget it. And he just said to my mom, and she came in and she told me, because she was just so sad because of everything going on. And she came in and she told me, and she said, you know, this guy out in the parking garage saw me crying, and he said, you know, basically, don't you worry about crying, ma'am. You know, lady, you know, just remember, it's gonna get greater later. Just believe in the Lord Almighty. He's gonna get you through this. And I have those words of "it's gonna get greater later" just resonating through my brain every day for 16 years. And it has gotten so much greater. I'll probably insert a little bit of the video of my talking with our daughter last night, and she'll give you her name too, because she chose to. Or not the final time that I hemorrhaged, we couldn't stop it, and nurse stayed with me constantly. And I remember at one point she just looked over at my mom because I was passing out from blood loss and pain. I'd been in transition for 17 hours. And I remember she looked over at my mom and she just said, you know, the doctor will not come. He's saying that he doesn't need to. He's too busy with C-sections and that kind of thing. And we're going to have to deliver this baby on our own. And I remember my mom just immediately was like, no. Like, she had no problem with, like, helping out with anything, but not this micropreemie that, you know, needed an entire team on her own, let alone a team for me after I'd been bleeding for that long, and, you know, the baby had been dealing with that as well. So she walked out, and she kind of, I guess, threw a fit in the hallway, honestly. And they found out what was going on, and they insisted that the doctor go in, and the doctor comes in, and he's like, and the nurse starts giving a report right then, like, verbally to him, and he said, well, I didn't see anything in the chart. She said, I haven't had time to do the charting because I'm literally trying to make sure she stays alive and the baby stays alive. And he was really annoyed, but we took care of it, and he came in and realized, and he's like, well, let me see, I didn't see any amount of, like, a lot amount of blood, blah blah blah. And she pointed over at the trash can in the floor, and she'd gone between she'd gone through so many of the pads they put under you, and they were just all, like, literally overflowing in the laundry bin and all the pads from the trash can and everything. And he's like, oh, that is a lot. And she's like, yeah, no kidding, you know. And so he said, okay, yeah, we have to have this baby now. And she's like, I know. So the residents were in there with him, and one of the residents, the one that was really, really sweet, she looked and she said, okay, you know, it's time to have her. And that was the hardest moment of my entire life. And I have done a lot of things, and I've been in a lot of ICU situations. but it was the hardest, because I had to have my baby, and I felt like I was giving up on her, and I felt like I wasn't protecting her like I was supposed to. But it was the only way to keep her alive at that point, was to have her, because she was gonna have issues from all the bleeding as well. So I had her, and I remember I pushed like 2 little tiny pushes and then one like normal one, and on the third one it was just like this weird feeling because she was so tiny. And I had her, and the nurse, the doctor, her hand is a little bit about the same size as mine. I'm 5 feet tall, so it's not real big. And she held her in one hand like this, and you just see like a little tiny, I couldn't even see it, but there was like a little, I'll put pictures in Insta too, but there was just little legs and sort of her little head right here. Here is her picture at birth. Her head was like the size of like a ping pong ball if you took like a 1/8 of an inch of something and put it around it like fabric. Like that was the size of her head. And so right there, hold on, can you see it? Yeah, my wedding ring, it wasn't this one, it was another one. I've gotten another one since, but it could go, it was a size 6, okay, and it could go all the way up her thigh completely. That's how tiny she was. And that was probably 2 weeks after she was born, because I wasn't allowed to touch her for a really long time. She cried 3 times, if you can call it that. There was this little noise, like there was like and then like I can't even really describe it. And then on that third one they had intubated her at that point, and I didn't hear her cry again for another, I want to say 2-3 months, because that's when she was finally extubated. So that was the birth story. I looked over, she was on the right of me, behind me, and the stork squad, that's what they had there. They came in and they whisked her away. They kind of put her next to me for like half a second and said, "There's your baby," and then walked out, and that was it. And then I didn't hear really anything about her for quite a while. Our nurse, who was so kind and sweet and amazing, like she was incredible, truly. She, while we were waiting, I hadn't eaten in a week because I was in PO, and she went downstairs and she bought me and my husband Subway. My parents left for a bit because they knew there was nothing they could really do at that point, and they left and went to the Ronald McDonald House. They'd actually already let us come there. She brought us Subway that she paid for herself, and it was just so kind. And I ate a sandwich, and I liked it. I remember, like, I devoured like half of it, but I hadn't eaten, so it was kind of gross to eat. But at the same time, I was so hungry. So I ate it, and then she left for a bit because she had lunch with us, or dinner, actually. She had, I guess it would be her lunch, but our dinner, it was kind of weird anyways. She left, and that was our birth and our time waiting. I was ready to go see Kaylin. It had been quite a while. It had been a few hours, and I still hadn't heard anything or seen anything. And I finally said, "Listen, I need to go see my baby," because I don't know. They told me that she probably wouldn't live more than an hour, and I was not gonna give up that hour with my child that I could have her alive. And so I insisted, like, they didn't come to help get me there and all, and there's a shift change in that time period and all. And I told Rob, I said, "You have to go get a wheelchair. We have to go," because I couldn't really walk yet because I'd had the magnesium and I had been on bed rest, so my muscles were really messed up right then. So he got a wheelchair, and he said, I don't even know it's clean, and I said, I don't care. And I just grabbed a wipe, I remember, from the side, and I just wiped it off, and I said, bring me to the NICU. And so he brought me to the NICU, and they said, oh, we weren't expecting you yet. And I said, well, I've been waiting, and you guys told me that she might not make it at all. I have to see her, I have to be with her, I can't leave her alone like that. And so we went to the NICU, and they showed us how to scrub in, and scrub-in sinks everywhere, and they wheeled me up to the scrub-in sink, and they opened the packet and showed us what to do, had us open the packet and show us what to do, and we scrubbed in, and we went back, and they said she's doing a lot better than we thought she would, for sure. And I just remember seeing her for the first time, and she was just laying there. I had a little crocheted hat on her. I'll insert her first picture too. She had a gallon freezer bag on her for her first blanket, because they lose a lot of heat. They can't control their body temperature. This is her first picture in the NICU. And that was my first meeting of my daughter. You could literally, her skin is almost translucent at that age, because they're not supposed to be out yet. Her eyes were still completely fused shut. That's one of the reasons they thought that she was much younger than we initially thought. According to our timeline of what gestational age she should be, they were completely fused, and there was a couple other things, but she just laid there, and she was intubated, and of course there's the peeping, and there's the just this cold isolate just sitting there, this plastic machine just holding your baby, and it just felt very impossible. And yeah, but they came at me with many DNRs to see, if I didn't want to take heroic measures for her, and we did, of course. And again, it wasn't up to us ever what happened to her, it was up to God what happened to her. So we of course took heroic measures, and we love that baby. And I just remember we went back to our room, and I took my first shower. I had her in late night, early morning kind of thing, and I took my shower, and I remember just, because I was kind of sitting on a hospital seat in the shower, because I couldn't stand really yet. Well, I could, but I was very unsteady on my feet, and so went in the shower, and I just remember literally melting into the ground of the shower, and because I went to wash my stomach, and it was empty. I went to wash my uterus, and she wasn't there. And I felt like the worst mom in the entire world in that moment. I'm sorry. And I know I'm not, but you're supposed to be able to protect your kids. And I couldn't hurt at the time that I was really supposed to be able to. That was supposed to be the easier part of protection. And yeah, that was a really terrible feeling, and I remember just sobbing, and I remember Rob hearing me, because he gave me just a minute to sit in the shower alone, and he came in the bathroom, he came running in, and he got me a towel and just grabbed me up and held me, and it was really one of the worst moments of my life. Again, because I just felt so sad. And how was my poor little baby gonna make it? They told us that she was gonna be a vegetable at best. And I remember telling the doctor before I had her, well, then I guess she's gonna be the best damn carrot ever. And the most loved carrot you'll ever meet. and that was just right before I had her. And I do understand why the doctors are so jaded and everything, because they see so much sadness and so many people that can't take care of their babies, and they do choose to leave them, and then these babies are sitting there just struggling for the rest of their lives on their own. So I do understand where their mindset is, but I also know that there are people that truly love their babies, and it doesn't matter what state they're in, they want to be there for them. So we had our girl, and over the next time, we had to wait until we got her brain scans back, because they had to decide that she was worthy of the surgery at that hospital to be transferred to another hospital, because they didn't do that surgery at that hospital, to be able to have a surgery that was life-saving for her. It was a heart surgery. It was called a pulmonary ductus arteriosus is what the problem is, and it's a PDA ligation. So basically there's another valve that closes usually at your first breath, but because it's more common in females in micropreemies, because they don't take that first breath, it doesn't have a chance to close. So it stays open, and it causes all sorts of respiratory issues and cardiac issues. So they went ahead and they told us that she was probably gonna have to have that surgery, and we did have it. And I remember that night they told us that she was gonna have to have it. I just cried, and I remember reading the Bible to her and a couple books, just fun books too, and I just remember sitting there and crying next to her, and I was alone right then and with her, and I was just touching her isolate, and because they didn't believe in a lot of touch at this hospital, and I was just touching her isolate, and I said, God, please just give me a sign. I've tried not to ask for anything other than your will, but please just give me a sign that my baby will make it through this surgery. I just want to know she'll make it through the surgery. I'm not asking what's going to happen with her the day after that, just through the surgery. And I'm sitting there and I'm singing to her, and I was singing, I'm horrible at singing, okay, but in my daughter's eyes I can see the future. Darkness turns to light and the world is at peace. This miracle God gave to me gives me strength when I am weak. I have reason to believe in my daughter's eyes. And as I'm singing that, my daughter, who her eyes were still very few shut, peeked open. I want to say it was her left eye. Her left eye for the first time, and she looked at me. These next couple pictures are her eye opening for the first time. Also, obviously, I did put my hand in her isolate at this time, so that was a huge gift for us. So it's by Martina McBride. She looked at me. Well, as much as she could. She couldn't really see yet. It was kind of like watching a baby dog, like, open up for the first time. But not, it was your baby. And she looked out for the first time ever, and I just remember just saying, thank you so much. I know she's gonna make it through the surgery. And like I said, we had to go to the next hospital, and that's where and the next hospital is Scottish Rite, and that's gonna be part 2. Scottish Rite was in Atlanta. Our doctor and Macon was actually her neonatologist. She had a group of them, but one that headed up hers, he actually decided that he really felt compelled to get our family to Florida, because he just thought that she needed that extra care in Florida that they could give that none of the hospitals around. Well, I mean, some of them could, but it wasn't home, and he wanted to get us to Florida, so he made it his mission to get us to Florida, and he was working with the Children's Miracle Network. he came to us and he said, hey, you know, I'm really working on it. I want to get you guys back in Florida. I want to get you home. And we said, oh my gosh, thank you. Okay. And they were able to use the Children's Miracle Network and work through them. We'd been staying at the Ronald McDonald House. So here is our daughter, and I'm just gonna let her kind of say what she thought about with what she's heard.
Hello, I'm Kaylin, and I don't really, I don't remember anything, but I've heard, about it. I've heard about it, and it seems like it was painful for me and everybody that was around me during the whole thing. But I'm glad to still be here, and I'm doing way better than I should have, or at least everyone thought that I was going to do, and that's great. I mean, I'm still alive, so any outcome would have been great and all, because it all does work out in the end, in my opinion, and well, what I think, and yeah, and I'm doing very well. I don't feel in pain at all, which is good.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
You're just really, you've really amazed us, honestly. You've come so incredibly far. Sorry. So her uncle decided it would be very funny to put that cricket noise in our car, and I think you've probably heard it in other videos, but yeah, that's still there, and I think it's pretty funny, so I just leave it there.
Yeah.
She also thinks
he put it in during the we had to travel for the hurricane, so yeah, and then he put it in while they were my mom and dad were they had to pick up stuff. I don't even remember exactly, but they just put it in the car. He just put it in the car while we were leaving.
Yeah, he did it under the guise of hugging her, actually, and she did know about it, and he's told me that.
Yes.
And she tried to deny it, but she's known because she's his partner in crime, and she has been ever since she was a baby. It's his favorite thing. He loves to go on naughty, wild antics with his favorite niece.
Yeah. And then we also set alarm clocks under their bed, and they got rid of their pillowcases, and they realized.
Yeah, at I don't know, 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, I was calling housekeeping, and I'm like, hey, listen, I don't know what happened, but my pillowcases aren't here, so could you please send some up? And they apologized, and they sent them up, and later on I found out that I totally bugged the housekeepers for no reason. They were under the bed. Thanks, Kaylin.
They were under the sheets.
Yeah, that's what it was. But we were too tired to find out.
Me and my brother knew about it.
All right. Now I'm going to go back to life with you. So I have to say real quick, I have to add in a couple things here. Ronald McDonald House. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ronald McDonald House of Central Georgia. You made the most incredible place to comfort our family and be there for us, and and so many families. It really is incredible. I hope nobody ever has to use it, but if you do, every time you go through that drive-through or you get McDonald's, know that money really does truly go to the families and the people that come and bring meals and everything. And if they don't, then the Ronald McDonald House has food there for you. And Panera, they donate their food every week to give you food for breakfast. In the mornings, they give it to you several times in the mornings, and they have breakfast for you every single morning. And and then Children's Miracle Network, that money really goes to the families as well. It paid for our gas, and we got, we're actually on the news in Macon, and it was so funny because her name was Suzanne, and we went to go back for their telethon, actually, with Kaylin as a baby. She was so cute in her little dresses and everything, but we went to go to Macon, and back the next year. And when we went there, the woman that was the newscaster, she was actually a student of my mom's, which was so neat and so full circle, and it was incredible. And they were it was on live TV, and Suzanne, she looked over at my mom and she's like, I can't believe this. You can't make this up. Like, because she hadn't seen her before that. She said she saw the name, but she didn't think anything of it right that second because she was just going through the names and doing the telethon. And then she looked over and she saw my mom and she got to hug her on live TV. And it was not made up, guys. It was real. And my mom taught journalism for 13 years at one of the local colleges, and that's where Suzanne went, and that's one of the places that she found a love for journalism, and came full circle, and it was able to really be there for us, and it was incredible. It really was. But anyways, we had an interview though next to Kaylin's isolate, and we spoke with them about prematurity and microprematurity and what was going on and how the Children's Miracle Network was trying to help us and that kind of thing. And it was really beautiful and really grateful. And if anybody out there is able to get a hold of that footage and get it to me, I will send you my phone number. I will drive to Georgia and get it myself if I need to, because I would love to have that. It's something I don't have, and I would love to have it because it was really touching. These are pictures from when we did our interview at her bedside before we left for Scottish Rite. And that's where I'm going to end this part of the story. So part 2, you can find out about that too. It's quite interesting. So yeah, just know that I say thank you so much again to Macon, Georgia. You have my heart. You gave me a piece of my heart with my daughter, and you were incredible. Thank you so much to the man that came and just prayed with us and met our daughter. And I'm so sorry for your the sadness of your daughter that passed at that time. That story you shared with me, and and just thank you for that, Bear. You guys just wrapped us around your life, and put your arms around us. It was incredible. Thank you to Gloria. Gloria, you were incredible, and we will always remember your sweet son. That sweet baby was Kaylin's. Oops, that was. You've already heard it by now in the video from what I've added in, but that was our daughter's first next door neighbor and bedmate. Kind of right next to him, next to her, and we kind of joked that one day they'd get married, and unfortunately. Fortunately for him, because he was no longer in pain, but unfortunately for Gloria, the most incredible mom you will ever meet. I hope to one day be half the mom you are. He went to heaven before he could leave the hospital. So, thank you to you. Thank you to the Ronald McDonald House of Central Georgia, and thank you to Tift Hospital. Just thank you to Georgia. Like, you will always hold a piece of my heart. And thank you to my incredible Kaylin. You are the light of my life, and I will never, ever be able to say enough about how amazing you are. I love you, baby girl. Here are some images of Kaylin while she was in the hospital in Macon, and some images of her now and through a few years as she was growing up as this incredible young lady that she is, and the amazing woman that we love and appreciate. Enjoy. don't forget to always find that smile, because it is there. And sometimes it's harder to find. Sometimes it's only a glimpse, but it is there. So don't forget to find that smile. And don't forget that you never know what the day may bring.